if you can share your screen with me, I can put up a visual of the latest sketch so everybody can see it.
Okay.
You want me to put my, I'm trying to think, what do you want me to do here?
Oh, you don't have to do anything.
Okay, I used to share the screen, all right.
Oh, and just to mention, this meeting is being recorded according to the town regulations, right, Brent?
I pressed the record button on,
Yeah.
on the Zoom. Yeah. Okay, Frank. Or sorry, Jim. I've hit share screen and
Okay, how am I supposed to do it? Oh, there it goes. Started screen sharing. There we go.
now that's sharing my screen. So
okay,
you should be able to share yours if you want.
I push the share screen button and I get a message, host disabled participant screen sharing. So there must be a different button you need to push.
Okay.
I think if you go to the top, it has a button to do for share screen. I'm sorry, it's at the bottom.
Okay.
So right now it says host is disabled participant share screen.
Get back to full screen here. Daggone it. Okay. Guide me through this again, whoever said that. I'm at the bottom.
Where it says share screen, the green
Correct.
triangle, the green rectangle, if you click that, doesn't it have something that says you can share the screen?
Okay. Let me go to advanced sharing options. Here we go. All participants. Thank you, Charles. I usually use Microsoft Teams for my work meetings, so these are new waters for me. Okay, Jim, you should be able to share your screen now. I've enabled that.
Okay.
And that's at the bottom. If you go into like the full view of Zoom, towards the bottom where it says share screen, and then you'll have to pick which application you want to share if you have multiple windows open.
Okay, I need to quit and reopen. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Everybody receiving those, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta get it on the screen.
And go over it. We got it like 3 hours before the meeting started. There it is.
Can everybody see it?
Yes, Jim.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, based on the last meeting we had at 98 Cannon, we've made some changes to the sketch. The most important one, oh, this is the wrong one, excuse me, just a second here.
Yeah, you had two different ones, so.
There, this is the one, okay. So the most important change is that we've reduced the size of the basketball court. Again, the yellow dotted line is the existing asphalt. So it would be, a bit longer than the existing asphalt, but 12 feet shorter than what we had proposed before. What we proposed before had been the length of a standard high school basketball court. So this is a major change because this will be a less than standard size court. We want to emphasize that when I say we, I'm talking about the ad hoc planning committee, not the whole recreation commission. So the planning committee suggests the emphasis that this is a youth court, which is consistent with the vision of Daryl Cleats, that it be a place for youth to stay busy in productive activity, to learn socializing skills and sports skills, and later on they can graduate to full-size courts. And we feel that it being a smaller than standard size court, it would be less attractive for adults to use. So, and we would put up signage to emphasize that the intention is for youth. Again, in reaction to last month's meeting, we made the toddler playground larger. The particular design of what to go into the toddler program is yet to be determined. We'd love input on that. We moved the pavilion from the left-hand side of the parking lot over closer to the art gallery, because that way it can serve as a sound buffer for some of the noise coming from the toddler playground and the basketball court. The tall wooden fence to reduce sound is still there. So between the fence and the pavilion, hopefully it'll have a minimal impact on surrounding properties. Let's see what else. Oh, it's a very good idea to make sure we had the walkway from the toddler playground to the rail trail. Not exactly sure yet what kind of surface that would be, but it would be a solid surface to allow wheelchair access. It's important to be accessible. That the lower part of the walkway is within the easement area, so we would not be able to construct that part unless we got permission from the state. And originally we had planned a water fountain there that could be used by both people and dogs. Turns out that a water fountain for people would be complicated because you would also need a sewer line in addition to a water line. But if it's for dogs only, it would only need a water line. So that's what we're proposing. The Public Art Committee has suggested putting a sculpture in that area. Let's see, what else? Expanded the trash area to make sure that that would be addressed. So are there any questions about, oh, yes, and then at the top, notice there is we plan to do signage, please respect our neighbors, keep noise and litter to a minimum. So this might be a good, are there any questions for the sake of clarification at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
You say that the court is 12 feet smaller, but you don't say how much larger it is. Could you tell me that, please?
Well, the current, I'm trying to remember the dimensions of the current area in yellow. As you can see, the width is about the same. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but it would be 72 feet long. Currently, I believe it's 60, so it's about a dozen feet longer.
Okay, and you still propose to put the toddler playground in a parking lot?
Yes.
And I see that the lot's designated with 42 designated spaces down from 48, but you are aware that the town does not own that whole parking lot, correct?
That's news to us.
Well, it has two ownerships.
Well, we would love to hear the details because we've been proceeding for over a year.
It's privately owned by some people down by the Casa Carmen restaurant. And the entrance is privately owned. It's not the town's. They're just generous enough to let the town use it. Just like the parking lot across the street behind Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, well, that's not affecting that doesn't affect this plan.
Well, it could. I mean, if the town doesn't own the whole parking lot,
We might have access to it.
that
Could I
it could be a problem. The other thing is,
Time in here for a second, please. First of all, if we can't use the parking lot like Carla says, then we'll just propose the court by itself. We'll vote on that and send that to the next town meeting. If you feel like the parking lot is owned by someone else,
it's owned partially by the town and partially by someone else.
that's fine. We can just go for the basketball court for right now. If you don't,
There's already one there.
it's going to be larger than the one that's there. And it's going to be 2 baskets, not 1.
Could we talk about the signage? Please respect our neighbors, keep noise and litter to a minimum. What are the guidelines on that, and who's going to enforce that? And isn't littering at a minimum, isn't littering against the law? Whether it's at a minimum or not?
Well, yes.
What are the guidelines for minimum noise? I feel like you think that the pavilion is going to buffer sound from the toddler playground. I feel like if there's a lot of people sitting in the pavilion hanging out, there's just going to be that much more noise.
Carla, this is Tom Hers. I think that you've made a good point there, but this would be if you were to observe people not doing what needed to be done in accordance with the signage and littering laws and loitering laws, et cetera, you'd call the CPD. So the signage is there not necessarily to stop people, but to offer a warning that the police could be called if you're observed doing bad behavior, right? Littering, loitering, whatever it is. But for reference on that, there's information about signage and enforcement in the town ordinances and charter.
What about the when you say it's intended for youth and not adults? What age are you talking about for the adults? How would you enforce that? And what are the consequences if adults are using it?
Again, it's a matter of people respecting norms. unless there is a town ordinance, it would be legally unenforceable. It's a matter of people respecting the space, and we believe that they would.
I mean, if I wanted to play basketball with my granddaughter, it wouldn't be permissible?
No. Look, we cannot restrict these things by age. I think the amenities are going to inform potential users as to whom it's geared towards. So as you mentioned, could you play basketball there with your granddaughter? Of course. You know, if there's a toddler playground there, I mean, that's going to convey certain information to, you know, an adult wouldn't play on it ideally. No, I don't think we can do anything to restrict use of this public space by age.
How about the dog fountain? Is that town water, or? I like to think that everyone that owns a dog is responsible, but from having property there since 1986, I know they're not. And I love dogs. I have a lot of dogs. I've had them my whole life, but I'm not sure that, you know, when dogs start gathering places, they tend to mark their territory. I'm not sure that you want to invite that where children are going to be playing.
Okay, it's 6:20, and so here's my question.
I have two questions I wanted to ask you, if I may.
You may, Charles.
What's the size of the toddler playground?
Or the pavilion.
Again, I'd have to pull up the diagram with the actual measurements, but that's approximately 12 feet by 12 feet.
Well, I don't think that'll hold.
That's about 3 kids.
That won't hold much.
The second thing is, I suggest that you put a trash receptacle near the dog fountain and bench. So, you know, like there is in Wilmer Park, people walking their dogs along the trail, that you have a place for them to, and they're not going to walk all the way up to where the other ones are.
That would have to be part of a larger discussion about trash along the trail, because it would not be easily accessible to the town, to the trash pickup of people. I know
I'm just saying that where there's dogs, there's pooping. People in Wilmer Park are very, very good about picking up, and because there are bags there and there are receptacles there. So you just ought to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I know the town's environmental commission is taking up this. They want to put trash receptacles along the trail, so we would coordinate with them.
Jim, could I ask a question? It's Molly.
Certainly.
And I think that the presentation that you have is wonderful and very clear, but I'm wondering about the scale. So looking at the pavilion, you say it's 20 by 32, which I'm going to just by speculation guess that between the pavilion and the art gallery, it looks like there might be 5 feet. Like what's the setback from the building, the art gallery?
I'm sorry, from what?
See where the bike,
Legal
you have the bike
setbacks.
stands are next to the
Yes.
pavilion? It looks to me, based on the pavilion is 20 feet wide.
Yeah.
That bike stand area is only 5 feet. What's the setback
It's different.
from the art gallery?
The actual number of feet, we'd have to go down and measure that, but you can tell it's up to that edge, the edge of that drain. It's essentially where the concrete parking barriers are.
That's very minimal. I think having walked over, I walk over it every day. It's like 2 feet, less than 2 feet, maybe from that building. And that's okay. I mean, I don't,
There's nothing quiet about a bike rack either.
Well, there's zoning setback laws.
there's
I have one more-
or there are.
I'm sorry, Molly, you got cut off. What did you say?
I was asking about the setback. Are there provisions provided for setback? I mean, is there a setback requirement in this or not?
That's something we will look into.
Okay, Jim.
I have just one more question. Have you done an estimate of what the cost is going to be?
We've got a rough estimate. Yes, this is all going to be done by fundraising. And our rough estimate is that it will be at least $100,000.
That's going to be a little less now because the court is almost half size smaller than it was. I mean, I got some large estimates to do that basketball court. One of them was like $39,000, but now the court is like half size, and the area where the logs are and all that stuff, we don't have to do a lot of work down there, any backfilling. So basically all we have to do is add asphalt on the one end of the court and probably pave over the whole thing so it's even. So we don't have an exact cost, but we're going to have to raise the money.
So you're not going to resurface the whole court. It's going to be
we
a patch
might
job.
resurface the court. We might, or we can just paint it out after we add the asphalt on the left side. If we're looking at this diagram on the left side, but it would look it wouldn't look super nice if it had new asphalt and then the old gray asphalt in there. So plus we want to paint it nice. We want to put the town logo on there, and we want to make it look really presentable, especially for tourists and people that come to town.
Frank, could I ask a question?
Sure.
Because I know you've been part of the discussion, even though, well, congratulations for moving on to the Recreation Committee. I understand that you're a new member.
Yeah, a couple days ago.
So in the fundraising effort, and I don't know what your projection is on how long that will take, will the construction of part of this park start before you have enough funding for the entire project?
We'll get to the fundraising part and then we'll have to make that decision. We don't have an idea because I don't want to go talking to people when we don't even have a plan. We don't have approval or anything. So as soon as we get that, then we're going to start. It could go fast. I have a lot of people I want to talk with. It might go slow.
Frank, I'm not asking how long the fundraising is. What I'm saying is, let's imagine you've raised enough money and you feel, or the committee and the town feel that you have raised enough money to put the court in.
Uh-huh.
So you put the court in. And you
Okay.
don't raise enough funds to complete the project.
Well, we're not there yet, Molly. I mean, I don't have an answer to that.
Well, no, that would be an answer that would be decided
Well,
in the town before you start. I mean, are you going to start the project before the full funds are raised or not? That's the question.
I would like to start the project before the full funds are raised. Now, we might have to go, that's a good question. We might have to go for some grants or some fundraising, and that could take a while. Just
So
like
what would be the
playground.
first thing that would be put in? The basketball court?
It's
Probably the basketball court.
okay. It's coming up on 6:30, and so here's what I want. Touching on Molly's question just now, let's get a rank order of the things on this plan that we want to see on it. But first and foremost in my mind is the dedication to Coach Cleats and the town stamping on the court. If I understand the motivation for all of this. So that, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's number one, but at some point we need to rank order these things so that we can ultimately present this to council.
Grant, could I interrupt one thing? Going back and looking at questions and editorials and comments that the community made about Ajax Court, they talked about the playground. Their concern was to have a good toddler play. Well, they didn't necessarily say toddler, but a good playground. So what if the money doesn't come through or the grant doesn't come through for the money to build the playground over in Wilmer Park? And we don't raise enough money for this 12 by 12 toddler playground. What are we going to do about that?
Okay, let me answer all these questions. First of all, you are right. We have to wait for the money to come in for the playground at Wilmer Park. There already is an existing swing set here, which is not, it's not in the zone for the railroad owns that land. Okay, that's been there for years, but I don't think they would complain about it. And I gather that Mr. Chip McLeod has already reached out the MDOT because they won't talk about it because a lawyer got involved. So you don't want to push them too much because they might say to get rid of all the playground equipment there and everything. We made a little walkway to go around for people to get to the trail. And those are questions that we'll have to work through. I hope that the playground makes it in Wilmer Park. I'm hoping that happens. We want to see a double basketball court here. That's the purpose. And we want to name it after a guy who mentored hundreds and hundreds of children in Chestertown. He's an African-American. He was a great guy. I only knew him for 2 years. And we want to name this court after him. He was on our committee and he passed away. Okay.
Frank, I admire that, but I think that the important thing too is to go back and see what the community was talking about. Originally, the Pocket Park, the people who wanted to preserve Ajax Park were concerned about a playground.
No, you're misunderstanding because the idea was to take out the basketball court and put a playground there, a large playground there. And the people protecting Ajax Park were the ones who wanted to preserve the basketball court.
What I'm saying is the community is concerned about a playground. So if there's not a playground going to go in over at Wilmer Park, then certainly in this area, getting back to Brandt's questions about prioritizing what's going to be done, then I think that the playground needs to be prioritized.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I think we need to take this whole event in front of the town council and let them figure this out. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to vote on what we're going to do, have this whole proposal go to the town council as soon as possible, and they can hash it out. I'd like to get a vote to get something going on this project. Brandt, what do you think?
Well, I think there are some details that still need to be hashed out, and I don't want this bogged in procedure forever. I'd like a vote on it too. Carla does bring up I'm just going to say we have some members highly invested in this project here who want to see it get to a vote, myself included. As I said, I don't want it bogged in procedure forever. But Carla does bring up a good point about where the toddler playground is currently slated. If that butts into a portion of the parking that is not part of the town's ownership.
That is part of the town's ownership. My point is the town doesn't own the whole parking lot. So can you really afford to be losing parking spots?
Well, the people that own the other land, they're just going to cut it off.
Plus, I find it very dangerous to have toddlers playing in a parking lot. I don't care if it's fenced off or not. They sometimes get away from their parents out with excitement and anticipation of playing, or sometimes people chasing balls, or people press accelerators and not brakes. We've seen that on the news too many times. And there's probably zoning setbacks on the toddler playground site as well. And I just don't think that the toddler playground should be in a parking lot. It's dangerous.
This is Chip McLeod too. I would just like to add, when you look at this diagram, and if I understand it right, the red dotted line indicates the state highway or state railroad administration right away, and everything in that is really not allowed unless specifically permitted by the state. You've reconfigured and you've changed some dimensions, but you still have a lot of stuff in a very small area. And I do wonder how this tall wooden fence that's talked about will even be allowed in the Chestertown Historic District.
So Chip, I got a question for you. You reached out to the MDOT. Did they tell you anything?
Well, no, I don't know any information that you're talking about.
Apparently you had reached out to the MDOT. We called, or someone called from the town office, and they said an attorney was involved and they won't talk. And I understand you're going to get back and give us the details. You haven't done anything.
Well, Frank, am I the only attorney in Chestertown?
Looks like it right now. Chip,
Okay, this
I'm going
part-
to tell you something.
This
You've
part's
done
not
all
productive.
this stuff. You're going to the MDOT. You could mess this whole thing up for everyone. Is that your purpose? Is that what you want to do?
All right, let's come back to order. Jim,
Yes.
okay. Can you I know this has incorporated some of the neighbor's prior concerns. Can you give us, as your action item from this meeting, let's call this your Plan A. Can you give us a B, Plan B, that takes out the easement portion? And then possibly a Plan C that puts the toddler playground elsewhere on this property, so that we can give the town council essentially a menu of ideas for this space. I need to reiterate to everybody that the Recreation Commission, we don't have the power of ordinance, and we're a citizen committee, volunteer committee, and we present ideas to the council, to our elected officials. Ultimately, they are the ones who need to stand and deliver on the plans that are presented to them. So not everything that's ever come in to the eyes of council has been passed. They have the ultimate say on this. So I guess my point in all of this is, at some point we do need to move past this planning phase and present something to council. So Jim, if you could give us like an A, B, and C plan with this is your A, and just, this is your, if I could get everything I've ever wanted in this space, this is my A, and then a B based upon the easement, and then a C based upon relocated toddler playground.
Yeah.
And then we just
put the toddler playground. I don't see.
Well, we can figure that. We can figure that offline, but it appears that Carlos' big objection is its location and proximity to the parking.
Is there some reason you could feel compelled to do it this month versus next month? Do you really want to present to the town council that the rec commission has an A, B, and C, and you town council decide which one you want without a recommendation, and which you have to have a vote here to do it? So what's the rush this month versus next month?
Well, no, I'm sending this back to Jim as an action item to give me an A, B, and C, and
Yeah.
I mean we can present the second council next meets not this coming Monday, but I believe the 1st of March. Tom, are you still online to confirm that?
I am, and the next meeting is the 1st of March. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for
a question for Tom. Tom, when do you think that the approval is going to come, if it does come in fact for the playground in the park? When are we supposed to receive that?
It should be sometime this month or next month, as far as I know.
Okay, so why can't we move forward with this plan, go to the town council, they can approve it with the condition that the park has to be approved. If it doesn't get approved, then we'll have to go back to the drawing board. If it does get approved, then you're going to have a playground down in the park.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, really what I'm looking for from the Recreation Committee is your best guidance as to how you want to proceed. I'm not an expert in recreation or playgrounds, so I'm looking to rely on you all, you know, to incorporate good ideas from the community and go forward. I don't,
What do you think, Jim?
Okay.
I'll defer to Brandt at this point.
Yeah, Jim, let's just come up with those 3 plans, and ultimately we'll vote to present the menu of ideas to council, the 3 plans. We'll present each of them to council, and ultimately they can decide which, if any, to adopt. I'd like to aim then for the meeting on the 15th to get on the agenda there. Okay.
Grant, but what if the playground in Wilmer Park does not go through?
I
Is
just
there a
mentioned
caveat?
that.
Is there a caveat? I know, I agree with you, Frank. What I'm saying is, but if you take it to the town council before we've heard anything about the Wilmer Park grant, then we're making a decision about this pocket park without a real consideration about the toddler program.
With the caveat that if the park doesn't go through in Wilmer Park, then we'll have to come back and revisit this. But we'll get approval of this, and once the park, Wilmer Park gets approved, then we can move forward with this plan. So I think that's a legitimate concern, Molly. I think it's totally legitimate, because if that money doesn't get approved down there, then we're going to have a problem. We got to go back to the drawing board. I just like to vote and get this to the council meeting in 2 weeks.
Like that horse before the cart.
Brant,
I
what do
feel
you
like
think?
there's a lot of unanswered questions here.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, Jim, just give me those 3 plans. Okay, that's the action item from this meeting, and then based upon that, we're going to move forward after that. Okay, with appropriately, we're going to move forward with that. There's plenty of good ideas that we've heard here, valid concerns that need to be incorporated into all of these plans, and so yeah, I don't want to push anything that's a non-starter, such as the parking issue, if that infringes upon anything. So let's just do that, make sure everything's solid. Okay, I'm going to move on to the Carpenter playset replacement. Harold, are you still in line with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, sir. If you could give us a couple minutes, Harold, if you could just.
I'm watching it for him.
Could I say one thing before we go to Harold? Are we going to vote on this to go to the council in 2 weeks?
Okay,
That's what I'm saying. Are we going to vote that we're going to come up with the 3 options, and we're going to go to the council in 2 weeks, and they can hash it out, and we'll come up with our answers, and then everyone can discuss it in front of the council? Do we need to vote on that tonight?
Well, Jim doesn't have the B and C plan. I mean, if everybody is there, if we're saying that, okay, here's the plan, this is the plan, then if you're making a motion to vote for it, I'll say, or Frank, are you making a motion that we vote on this as the lone recreation plan?
I want to make a motion to vote on this plan and have the 2 other plans ready that the neighbors are concerned about for the town council meeting. We can show everything. They can come up with all their concerns, you know, and then we can also say that until the park gets approved, Wilmer Park, that if they approve our plan, we have to wait until the park is approved. In the interim, we can start raising money, or at least getting our plans together, how we're going to raise money for it, because it could take time. So I'd like to propose making a vote on it, so it can go in 2 weeks to the council.
Okay, Frank, I need you to streamline that motion.
Okay, we'll use our original plan that we have.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll come up with 2 plans that Jim will come up with the neighbors' concerns about what we're going to do with the toddler playground. If Wilmer Park happens, then they can put a toddler playground down there. they can do that. We can still have the pavilion. So I think we can come up with 2 separate plans, present everything to the town council that the neighbors want or they disagree on. Plus we can have the motion that it can't go through until Wilmer Park is approved.
How can you vote on a plan you don't have?
Frank, excuse me, are you not just making a motion that this plan be one of 3 that would be presented to the council?
Can you get me?
I'm sorry, excuse me, I couldn't hear who was speaking. Oh, hey, Molly. I can't hear you now.
Computers, or battery died.
So-
Yeah, that's okay.
But aren't you making a motion that this be one of 3 plans that would be presented to the council, and then the other 2 plans would have to be a motion and approved as well before going to council?
I'm sorry. Oh, I heard you. That's a valid point.
Well, I think that's a streamlining of your motion, Frank.
Okay. So just go for this one plan?
Frank, is your motion to enter this plan A into the menu of options that will eventually be?
Yes, that's what I want to do.
Okay, you want to enter this as one of our potential plans.
Yes.
Do we have a second on that?
Yes, I second.
Okay. So Frank, you're voting for or against that motion?
4.
Okay. Jim, are you for or against?
4.
Harold?
4.
Emily?
4.
Nat?
4.
Okay. All right, let it be known that this plan A, will be part of the menu of options that we will present to council, with the chair acknowledging that there should be a plan B and C based upon the feedback, okay?
Well, you mentioned that Frank keeps saying that, you'll make this motion and whatnot, and then consider what the neighbors think. Well, I thought we talked about what we wanted at the last meeting, which was to leave that park pretty much like it is without a pavilion and out the top. And we like the court the size it is instead of all this huge stuff. And we feel like there's enough basketball courts in town, including this basketball court that we have now. And we could fix this up in the footprint that it's in for a lot less money and do it very nicely. I don't feel like you're listening to our concerns.
Just because we're not agreeing with all of your concerns does not mean we're not listening to them and taking them into account. I thought the
Well, on the redesign of your plan,
approved our plan.
all you did was just move a couple things around. You didn't take, I don't see anything of consideration to what we talked about at the last meeting in this new plan. You just moved a pavilion and made a top court bigger and made a path that I recommended from rails to trails to the top court, or, so so you didn't have to walk through the basketball game to get somewhere else.
Okay, Jim, give us a B, your action items from the item, give us a B and C on this. We won't present to council until we agree on all of the potential plans. But okay, we've got A entered into the menu of options. Back to Harold, whom the chair recognized earlier. If you could tell us about Carpenter Park, please, and the need for a new playset.
So about 3 years ago, a generous donor donated us a used swing set. In September of 2020, the town deemed it unsafe because it was wood chipping and it was falling apart. So now we're stuck without a swing set, and it was lots of kids going to the park playing on the swing set, but now they have none. So now the residents in Washington Park, we would like to start to raise funds to get a new swing set, but with it being mostly elderly people in this community, and the pandemic has messed with a lot of people's funds, we kind of need help to get a swing set.
And so, Harold, do you want to look at, have you already looked at options for a swing set, or
well, myself and Amy, we kind of toyed around with it, looking at some swing sets, but we didn't really pick anything yet.
Okay. Because we do have we do have some operating funds, which Amy informs us that we essentially have the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have, so if you, I'm getting a lot of feedback on here, so if everybody else can mute, that'd be great.
So I have a comment. I've driven through there, and it really needs some good equipment. I thought what was there before was inadequate, but in this era, you just don't buy a swing. A town doesn't just buy a swing set and plop it down. There are all sorts of requirements. There are ADA requirements. There are requirements for safety. It's not the same in this era of security for children, and a town liability if you don't do it the right way. The park needs some real good stuff. That's just no doubt. But I think you have to be thoughtful in the design and what you put in.
Okay, thank you, Charles.
Make sure you reference that in the next comment.
So, okay, we need to get a place at Carpenter Park. Harold, if you can just look at some options, present them to us.
I'll do that.
You can present them offline. I mean, we can't vote for anything offline. So, yeah, if you have some good options for us, that would be great. And just let us know price-wise what some of these things run, to see if, do we need, as Charles mentioned, we probably aren't going to be able to get anything with our operating budget that is satisfactory.
Right.
But maybe we can go half and half, or a third out of the operating, and then fundraise the rest. I've spoken to a few business owners about fundraising, and their preference tends to be if we can do some type of auction, as opposed to like a roundup fundraiser where you round to the nearest dollar. Some of the merchants I've spoken to don't like that because it's a lot of admin. And so one thing I've heard a few times from business owners with regards to fundraising is auctions, and then that way people can enter for a basket of something or a service, like if it's a personal training session, then that way the business owner is like, hey, I've got somebody at my door now, and it could ultimately work out for them too. So so that might be a potential fundraising avenue for us, where we could probably make enough to get a decent play set in that area. But
Okay.
it's got to be something that's, instead of donated, right, new, anchored, and then that way it'll be safe for use. But yeah, if you could just get us some of the things you're looking at, and then we can manage towards procuring them.
I can do that.
For this summer. I mean, we got fiscal year ends June 30th, so see what we can do there.
And can I make a comment?
Yes.
We may want to try to make a proposal to the county. They fund a swimming pool in Millington, and big playgrounds all over the county, but they don't do anything in Chestertown, despite our double taxation.
Okay. Well, we could certainly make a pitch to the county commissioners. We want to get on the agenda for one of those meetings. That's a worthwhile avenue as well. Okay. As I mentioned before, we're going to scrap the children's, well, that's the wrong word for it. We're going to table the Children's Advisory Board. Even though we've got some forgiveness from Zoom as it is, but we'll table that for next time. In brief, a potential member or somebody who was under consideration had mentioned that their child might be interested in joining a children's advisory board, obviously unofficial, without any teeth, but sort of would use the Recreation Commission as like a conduit from youth needs to go to council, and it would get kids interested in advocacy and civic duties and the like. So that's all that needs to be said on that for now. We can really hash that out in greater detail. I want to go around the horn with any of the members if they have anything else that they wanted to talk about. Nat, we haven't heard from you. If floor is yours, if there's anything you wanted to present as far as ideas, any observations you've seen around town that you'd like to see us work on between now and the next meeting.
No, I just would like to say hello. Thank you. And no, I'll have to do a little bit more eyes open now that I'm here. So today's been a daddy daycare for me. So, but just want to say thank you, and I'll keep my eyes open from here on out.
Okay, great. Well, welcome aboard. Emily, do you have anything that you wanted to spitball on?
Not really. Just
Okay.
kind of, not to drag up Ajax again, but just something about that I know myself and a number of other families I've spoken to is getting some kind of picnic tables around town, and that was part of where we were going with Ajax. Because like First Fridays and such, when we go into town, we have our kids, there's not really anywhere to go and sit and eat and let the kids run around while we eat and hang out. That's not next to a street. So that's definitely something that I would like to see, and I know a number of other families would too.
Okay. Jim, you might be able to slide those in your renderings. All right. Harold, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I'm fine at the moment.
All right. Thank you,
I'd
sir.
like to say something. Do I have a second? I'm glad that I'm a part of this committee, and one of my goals to see in Chestertown, I'd like to see younger families move to town somehow. If we can make that work. Our school system, so they'll use more of the school system. I think Chestertown has so much potential, and people are working more from their homes, so families can move here and more kids can come here, and we have the nice marina. I just think there's so much potential, and if the playground does get the funding for the park, I mean, that's just going to be a wonderful addition to the town. So that's my goal with the rec committee now. I just want to see younger families come here. Thanks.
Sounds good. Okay. It is 6:57. Is there any other comment from the public that wants to get entered? All right.
Brad, just my last comment again is I think the A, B, and C plan is a good idea, but I think part of the A, B, or C is the progression of the work. So will the project go through fully? Will you wait until the funds are raised for the full project, or will you go ahead and just start with the basketball court and having raised money for many years, I know sometimes the inkling is to go ahead and start, and then you run out of raising funds, and then the project is over. So I think that the public deserves the reassurance that the full project will be completed as proposed.
Okay. Right. That's
And-
fair, and that's a point that when we present to council, that we will let them know that whatever option they choose, they need to be all in on it.
And Mr. Chair, just one other comment too, just to be clear, you're talking about plans B and C, which are to reflect comments that you've received. I guess to be clear, and it's been stated earlier by somebody, at the last meeting, what was really talked about was keeping the pocket park as is and making it better, not bigger, safer, not louder. And it doesn't sound like plan B or C is actually going to be that set of comments. And I wonder if there isn't a plan D that goes to the mayor and council that is really reflective of the comments that were stated, which is as is, but make it better. As was stated, you could go out there, as soon as the weather clears and paint some nice lines on the macadam that's there. And all of a sudden the kids that you want to help play basketball get to play horse because they have a key to play around. So I guess I just hope you're careful when you present plans B and C. If they're going to say these are plans based on citizen input, they don't sound like they're going to be really reflective of the input that was received. And that was included in writing. I mean, the outline that was presented to the group at the last meeting, to me, could have been served as one of the proposed plans that goes up to the mayor and council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at 7 o'clock, there being no other objections, going to adjourn the meeting of the CRC. Very well. Have a good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.